The problem is that most boots are designed for men, and most companies still apply the shrink it and think it concept where they take a men's shoe and make it smaller and sometimes add pink color to it or purple, whatever that might be. And that is not what professional women want to wear. I always struggled with it.
The startup investment landscape is changing, and world-class companies are being built outside of Silicon Valley. We find them, talk with them, and discuss the upside of investing in them. Welcome to Upside.
Woo!
Hello, and welcome to the Upside Podcast, first podcast fighting upside outside of Silicon Valley. I'm Eric Hornung, and I'm accompanied by my co-host, Mr. Midwestern Plaid himself, Jay Klaus. Jay, how's it going, man?
I love the return of the fall. I am built for cold and potentially even Arctic climates, and so I'm excited to bring back the plaid flannel shirts. This is my time of year.
I feel like this is the time of year where you go out anywhere in the Midwest and there are 19 guys all wearing the same shirt.
Yeah, it's all a mix of red and black or almost black striped flannels. It's everywhere, it's obnoxious, but it's also comfortable, and I don't know if it's still in fashion or not, but it's closer than most things I wear, so I'm going to stick with it, and I appreciate you noticing.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, normally you're not dressed this nicely, so this is definitely a step in the right direction for you.
You're not a flannel guy, are you?
Oh, no way.
I feel like I never see you in flannel.
Yeah, Colleen bought me a flannel because she really likes them, and I very much don't like that shirt, but I wear it for her when we go out on dates because I know that she likes it.
You spent so much time in corporate America wearing collared shirts. What do you have against flannels, the casual collared shirt?
You can just wear a casual collared shirt. It doesn't have to be a flannel.
But I feel like I don't see you wearing casual collared shirts either. I feel like in your non-work attire, collars aren't a part of it.
That's generally true. I think that the classic, anything that like the majority of people wear, I'm not into. So the idea of like when we were in college and everyone wore those like checked Brooks Brothers and whatever else button downs that 95% of the people at the bar were wearing, not my style. So now in the corporate world and in the professional world, the flannel is very in, or the just classic button down and pair of slacks going out look is in. Not into it.
So it's more that you're being contrarian and not that you are rebelling against the fact that you are required to wear collars most of the time.
I'm just a pretty standard looking white guy with dark hair. So the idea of wearing something that the majority of the rest of the bar is wearing, it's just like, all right, I look like everyone else in here. So let me just be myself a little bit, Jay. Let me be unique.
All right. Well, speaking of workwear, today we are talking with Anastasia Kraft, the founder and CEO of Xena Workwear. Xena Workwear creates high-quality, relatable shoes and apparel for professional women in STEM, starting with stylish steel-toe safety shoes. Eric, gotta say, this falls firmly into the category of I never would have thought about this, and oh duh, why doesn't that already exist?
That's two categories, just so we're keeping track here. Unless that's a singular category for you.
It could be.
Okay.
Maybe it is.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Just even on the face of, we don't know anything about this company yet, but there are women who are engineers and work in STEM. They need specific types of shoes. Why don't those shoes look nice? Like, very simple, logical problem here.
Xena Workwear was founded in 2018, based in Milwuakee, Wisconsin, another company in the list of Milwaukee companies that we're talking to on the show that has a tie to G-Beta. And they've received $750,000 in funding to this point from our friend Ezra at Starting Line, who recently closed a new fund himself. I'm excited about this, Eric. We always get a little bit excited when we get a e-commerce or direct-to-consumer company. Haven't been there in a while, but we're going back today with Xena Workwear.
Ooh, does this fall into the Blitz?
E-commerce and retail blitz, a new year, a new season.
The Blitz, season 2. Shout out to Scott Shane for sending us the introduction to Xena. Scott Shane is of Comeback Venture Capital in Youngstown, Ohio.
Anastasia also goes by Anna for short, so you may hear us referring to her as Anna throughout the interview. And as we go through that interview, if you guys have any thoughts, you can tweet at us at UpsideFM or email us hello@upside.fm. If you're not already following us on Twitter, I encourage you to give us a follow. We talk about, obviously, the companies and things happening on the show, but also things that are trending in the areas that we cover across the country. So give us a follow at UpsideFM. We'll get to that interview right after this. Eric, let's pretend that you're going to take initiative and start a company. You following?
Never done that.
All right. Well, you helped start the Up company here, so a little concerned.
Just kidding, Jay. Of course let's pretend. Let's go down your hypothetical path.
And let's pretend that you are trying to find some of the most talented engineers to help you get that company started. How many engineers do you think you know?
Not enough.
Not enough. And that's why I would recommend you work with our friends over at Integrity Power Search. Integrity Power Search is the #1 full-stack, high-growth startup recruiting firm between the coasts. They partner with venture capitalists, private equity groups, and CEOs like you, Eric, to build amazing teams to the world's most disrupting companies. If I'm hiring, if I'm trying to find good engineers, I'm not going to rely on my small group of connections. I'm going to go to a group like Integrity Power Search, who has thousands and thousands of potential connections, potential hires for my company.
That sounds like enough to me.
Sounds like enough. Sounds like you're going to find the best talent when you can dip into a larger pool. They've executed more than 600 searches successfully, and they're on track for more than 200 in 2019 alone. Their clients have collectively raised over $2.5 billion with a B, Eric, in venture capital funding and counting. So if you guys want to learn more about Integrity Power Search, go to upside.fm/integrity to get started with their team. This episode of Upside is sponsored by Tresta. Tresta is a mobile app that lets you do business calling and texting from anywhere. With Tresta, you can set up your business phone number, download the app, and start calling and texting unlimited right away. Tresta is the best business phone app on the market, whether you're a founder or freelancer just starting your business, or you're already established. Growing your network and your business is all about communication. You've got to be available no matter where you are. Tresta offers the call management features that empower you to communicate smarter and more efficiently, like auto attendance, call recording, user groups, and more. And you don't need any special equipment either, just the smartphone you're already using. Tresta is easy to configure, so you can set everything up yourself, all online. It's just $15 per user per month with no contract, so start your free 30-day trial today at tresta.com/upside. That's www.tresta.com/upside. Anna, welcome to the show.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
On Upside, we like to start with a background of the founder. So can you tell us about the history of Anna?
Sure. And I have to start from the very beginning. I was born in Kazakhstan. It's a country that borders Russia, China. Lived there for 10 years before my family decided to move to Germany. Yeah, with 10, I moved to Germany with my parents, my sister, and my brother. And I realized that Germany was so much better with so many more opportunities. Kazakhstan was an interesting country that is still Muslim and very traditional values, where most women did not drive, learned to be good housewives. So that was a complete change in Germany. I realized that I could do anything. And when I finished school, I decided to study international project engineering, which combines engineering with project management. And that was something that our university came up we have a lot of industry in southern Germany, a lot of manufacturing companies. They all came to our university and said, we need people who have an engineering background and know a few languages and know how to manage multi-million-dollar projects. And so that's what I did. And during this program, I had to go abroad, apply to different countries. And I always wanted to go either to Asia or South America, do something crazy, but got an offer to Waukesha, Wisconsin, which is very interesting. That's how I came to the US for the first time. Finished my internship, met during that time my husband here in the US, and we visited each other a lot. I finished my degree, and because he speaks multiple languages, but German is not one of them, and that's why I decided to move to Milwaukee. So now I'm here. When I came to the US, I started working for a consulting company that helps manufacturing companies deliver multi-million-dollar projects. So I was more on the project management side for many, many years.
What languages do you speak?
I speak Russian because Kazakhstan used to be part of the Soviet Union, and that's what I speak with my husband as well. German is probably my strongest language because I grew up in Germany. I speak Spanish, and yeah, I get into that later. It comes back when I go to Mexico and have to communicate for our business. Yeah, some English. I had to suffer through many years of Latin, but Latin is dead. It just helps you to learn more Romantic languages.
So, being born in this traditional Muslim culture of Kazakhstan, how did you determine that manufacturing was what you wanted to study at university?
The way I selected my degree was I always wanted to be independent. I wanted to find a job that not only makes where I can make some money, but also have a purpose behind it. And I always looked for jobs that could allow me both. And with this degree, I would say it gave me great opportunities to have an impact and make a good salary.
So, talk to us a little bit more about this moment where you decided to come over to the U.S. and come to Milwaukee. You know, if you follow the train of Kazakhstan to Germany to Milwaukee, it doesn't quite seem like where I would guess somebody lands. So, when you had that opportunity to come here for that job, what was going through your mind? What did you think about that?
It was a tough decision, and it's so interesting. I never planned to come to the US and I never even planned to live in the US. But when I came here, first of all, I met my husband here, but we had the opportunity to live in either country. But I love the optimism and the opportunities you have in the US. It's a very free country. In Germany, you have a secure network. If you lose your job, you have a system that picks it up. Same with healthcare. You have more insecurities here in the US, but also more opportunities. And I love this optimism, the positivity and the opportunities. And I love Milwaukee. So I decided, I told him I will move here, but only if I can move to Milwaukee, which is one of the best cities ever, in case you haven't been.
I think being raised in the United States, we are taught that there's more freedom and more opportunity here. But since I've pretty much only lived here, can you expand on what it looks like in Germany where there is fewer opportunities, as you call it?
Mm-hmm. In Germany, I would not have started a business because it is more bureaucratic and you have and people would not be as supportive as here. Here we have enough people who said, "You guys are crazy. What are you doing?" But still, you see more role models here that started businesses. Some of them failed along the way, but they are successful, became successful in the end. In Germany, you have your established companies that exist for hundreds of years, dozens of years, and it is so much more difficult to start a business. You could do something small, like a small hair salon or massage salon, but we know how many successful big businesses come out of the US, and that's because of the environment and the funding and the overall a factor of a support network. Yeah. I'm impressed with how many through G Beta, and that is part of Generator. We received so much support through their network. It's just people want to help you. People who don't gain anything by spending their time with you will help you to succeed. And you would not see that as much in Germany, I would say.
How did you fall in love with Milwaukee?
Milwaukee has a German influence. I think in the 1800s, the largest number of German immigrants settled down in the Wisconsin and Michigan area. So there are so many buildings that are built based on German architecture. You have German street names, German restaurants, German beer breweries. It's a great city that there's always something happening. It's great for millennials or any people who like to be active. There's a lot to do, but you're not always stuck in traffic. I love Chicago when I don't have to drive. So Milwaukee is just a hidden gem. We have a beautiful beach, so much to do, great breweries, and you can be in any part of the city in 20 minutes and find a parking spot.
So You mentioned that you were doing this consulting gig and there were these multi-million-dollar projects. Can you tell us a little bit more about the work that you did there?
Mm-hmm. I worked for Caterpillar for many years, and some of the projects included either building, and they built massive, massive machines for global mining. So one of them would be you have to deliver a product within a year, and you cannot miss a deadline. And that's something I appreciate working for a company where you have an actual deadline. So I would get together with the team of engineers and we would develop a project plan together. First, we write a charter, which includes what are your goals that are measurable, who are the people that need to be involved, and how do you measure success. And then we develop a project plan together. I would use software to plug it all in that actually shows you your finish date. And on a weekly basis, we would get together, update the schedule, and identify issues and see how there will always be problems that happen along the way, and you always identify how it impacts the finish date. So that was also very helpful to start my business as well. And it's very rewarding to work for clients and help them deliver multi-million-dollar projects on time. One of the most fun projects that I worked for was the planning of the FIFA World Cup in Moscow. That was the 2018 World Cup. That was a lot of fun. So you plan it for 2 weeks with different teams and then integrate all plans together, and you have thousands of activities that are somehow connected to each other.
Did you get to go?
Yeah, I was there. And probably also because of my Russian skills. That was a plus. I did not see anything of Moscow. I was excited to go check out all those cool museums and see the city, but we stayed at a very nice hotel, but worked every day until the evening. Had big opportunity to see St. Petersburg for a weekend. You guys have to go if you haven't. See the Hermitage.
What year did you get to the U.S.?
6 years ago for the first time. So 2013 for the very first time to do my internship.
Did it feel any different being in America after the 2016 election in sort of the U.S.-Russia geopolitics?
I do see a difference. And it's always interesting when I watch news in Germany, American news, and my parents have a Russian TV station. And you see 3 different opinions about one event. It's always shocking. Yeah, I could see a difference that the hostility now between Russia, which I think is not very beneficial, but people are still the same. If you get the chance to connect, you will find commonalities between Americans and Russians.
So talk to us about you're in Milwaukee now and you're working for Caterpillar. At some point, you start getting the idea to start what becomes Xena Workwear. Can you help us walk into that transition and where that idea came from?
Yeah, that started already with my first internship. Many people who work in manufacturing will, especially women, will be able to relate. So when you work in a manufacturing setup, you have your office or you have your cubicle, and you have the manufacturing floor that is either attached to the building or you have to walk to a separate building to check on parts or just get to a different room. And when you're in the office, you can wear your regular shoes, and it's usually expected to dress professionally. We all know that. So either business casual, even business, depends on the company. And as soon as you walk out on the shop floor, you have to wear steel-toed boots or safety shoes. It doesn't have to be steel toes. So those shoes have a protective toe cap built in, have to be slip resistant. In many cases, they need to have many other safety features. The problem is that most boots are designed for men, and most companies still apply the shrink it and think it concept where they take a men's shoe and make it smaller and sometimes add pink color to it or purple, whatever that might be. And that is not what professional women want to wear. I always struggled with it because, especially in my consulting role, it was almost part of my contract that I have to dress professionally on a client site, and I wanted to dress professionally. And wearing a nice blouse or a nice blazer with clunky hiking boots, you have to imagine the options were hiking boots, super big and clunky, tennis shoes, rarely clogs that not all women like to wear. And that was just so frustrating. So most women were forced to dress down to match hiking shoes. So you see on the one side men looking all professional in their button-down shirts, and women who in most cases look like they just came back from the gym or a hike because they're wearing a hiking jacket to match their tennis shoes or hiking boots. So I complained about the same problem for so many years, and it's just crazy the way it makes you feel. And there's statistics out there. What you wear has a major impact on your confidence and other job-related factors like promotability and long-term career success. And that's why complaining myself and hearing my engineering friends in Germany complain about the same thing and my coworkers, I decided to do something about it and started developing safety shoes that look nice and have all the needed safety features.
What was step one of designing a shoe?
Step one was to learn about American safety standards because there are so many and there are so many gaps that I wish will be closed sometime soon. Just certain things not being defined. And then after you learn the safety standards and have an understanding of what you want to develop, you find a designer. You kind of tell them roughly what you want. Maybe you find 5 different shoes that you like and combine different features together. You say, I like this on this shoe, and then you create the design together. I did the sketches, terrible sketches myself, and then asked the professional designer to actually add the measurements and do it on the computer.
How did you find a designer?
I think we used Upwork, and we worked with a very talented and reliable designer that traveled all around the world. And so every time we had a Skype call, she was in a different country. I just love that. And I love to support that lifestyle. As long as people deliver, I think they don't have to be in one location, sitting in one office from 8 to 5.
What was it like deciding that you were going to start a company, given that growing up, that wasn't as much a part of the culture as it is here in America?
Mm-hmm. My husband and I gave ourselves a year to figure out what we wanted to do. So we said we'll either go stay in the corporate world, which we both didn't want to do. We don't think that we fit in well. Lack of efficiencies and just being kind of stuck in an office and feeling like, okay, I want to do something, and you don't always have a lot of work or have to deal with inefficiencies and people who don't want to follow deadlines in different cases. So we said in 1 year we will either do a master's, and I would have done a master's in mechanical engineering, and he would have done his MBA, or we'll start a business. And if we find a good idea, if we find something that we're both passionate about and interested in. And so by the end of the year, I think we booked a cabin up north and swatted out 6 different ideas for the weekend. And I thought really there's a lot of potential with this safety footwear or workwear idea that we want to give this a shot.
What were some of the other ideas that almost happened that you decided to axe?
Oh, maybe we want to do this afterwards. No. I can talk about it. One cool thing was it was close. You know how we all go to the gym to work out and train our bodies?
Well, I don't.
Muffin tops are really in now, in case you're wondering.
No, you train your body, but there's nothing that you find where you can train your mind and challenge your mind for adults. So we go to schools and universities, and that's the way we learn. And we still have YouTube and fun videos, but actually have an interactive environment where you work on your brain. That would be something cool, and you can do it in a fun setting. So that was another idea, but it would have been a little bit more difficult to scale. And I was more passionate about this. This was my husband's idea, and I was super passionate about solving the problem for women.
I want to ask one clarifying question. You said the first step was the safety standards. Is there a specific safety standard, and is there an approvals process? Kind of give me some more detail on how safety standards work for footwear in this space.
So all shoes have to be sent to an independent lab that tests them for different things that you can get the ASTM label. And the the things that all safety shoes need are a protective toe cap, and I'm talking about the manufacturing and construction environment. It's a protective toe cap. It could be steel, it could be a composite material. Now they're coming out with many new other materials. It needs to be slip resistant, and a few additional things that you can test your shoes for is chemical resistance, oil resistance, static dissipative, which means that it conducts your static charge from the body to the ground. So you cannot cause a spark that could then cause a fire when you work with highly flammable materials or work with a microchip that costs $1 million to develop. One tiny spark could damage that part. So it's static dissipative that is actually, it will be released in a week. Electric hazard resistant when you step on an open cable that you will not get electrocuted, so it's insulating. You have metatarsal guards. So there are so many different safety features that you can test for. And how we do the development is we gather requests from women in different industries and develop one by one based on what they need.
Do you ever fail those certifications and like have to go back to the drawing board on stuff?
Yeah, unfortunately. With the last one, with the static dissipative boot, we failed the test twice and was very frustrating, but we didn't give up. So you need to have, the interesting part is it can't be all conductive. So you have the insole, you have the midsole, and you have the outsole. And it needs to have the perfect combination that it conducts your static charge from the body to the ground, but still provides a sufficient level of resistance that in case you step on an open wire, it still protects you. So we had to find that range. So we played with different mixtures for the insole, different mixtures for the outsole to find the perfect combination to pass the test.
How many months or years of R&D has gone into like getting this first shoe?
Mm-hmm. For the first one, it took less than a year, which is still long, but because it was so new to us, and we both had full-time jobs, and it was a new thing for our manufacturer who previously focused only on men's shoes, suddenly had to make something nice for women. So it took us almost a year to go through the development, multiple rounds of prototypes and the testing. Now we're much faster and more efficient.
How did you go about? I'm always fascinated by people who get physical products manufactured because it seems like such a new, inaccessible process, especially if you manufacture any of it overseas. So how did you go about figuring out your actual creation and supply chain the first time? And do you think that being in manufacturing helped you do that?
Yeah. So we decided to manufacture in Mexico for multiple reasons, because we wanted to have better control over the supply chain process and quality. We still think that it was a great decision not to go to Asia, but work with someone who's in the same time zone. We can jump on a call with our manufacturer a few times a week. If something comes up, they're always available. If we have to fly down there, it's a $400 flight and you're there in a few hours, which is nice. And they were incredibly helpful with this, helping us to figuring out the supply chain, which materials to use, because they all have their preferred vendors. And my background in manufacturing definitely helped, especially with quality control and solving problems. There are many ways to find a solution, and I always, when I fly down there, when we develop together, I'm always the one hanging out with the engineer, testing out different things, how to make it work. And it's a lot of fun.
What kind of questions do you ask when you're vetting a manufacturer and a supply chain?
You have to find out if they have the capability to do what you need to do. And then the second question is, do they have, how quickly can they scale with you? What is their capacity? And how quickly can they grow? And I always ask I always want to see how they treat their people. I want to see the factories and know how they pay their people. I want to make sure. That's always a problem when you work abroad. You can't always be there, and it's nice not to just be at the nice office when you talk to the manufacturer, but actually see the manufacturing facility. And I also tour the tanneries, because to me it's important that the tanneries are certified and treat their the tanning process is very messy and chemical intensive. So I wanted to work with tanneries that treat their water before it's being discharged. So it's LWG certified. These are the main questions I would ask.
So how long has Xena Workwear been in market and available for consumers to purchase?
Mm-hmm. We just launched in May of this year with one design and two colors, and received a lot of requests from women for additional widths, additional certifications. So in a week, we will be shipping out the static dissipative model. In December, we'll be releasing a boot that has a lower heel and ankle coverage and will be electric hazard certified. And we're actually already working on apparel because shoes is the biggest pain point for women, but there are also needs for more functional workwear in general. And we are right now developing blazers actually here in LA that will be machine washable because you're constantly walking from a nice conference room to sometimes a dusty, dirty manufacturing floor, construction site. They will have pockets where you can actually put in your phone, your safety glasses, your earplugs. We'll have a nice hook where you will be able to hook in your rear rings because you're not allowed to wear rings on the shop floor. So just a more functional jacket and blazer that will be released soon as well. And we have a list of additional things that women requested, but we're doing one thing at a time.
How do you balance both the operations side and the branding side of Xena when you think about the difference between shoes, which is your kind of flagship go-to-market, and these additional products?
We have an operations manager and a marketing manager. My husband helps on the operations side and does all the fun stuff like getting the shoes shipped from Mexico to the US and shipping them to the customers on time and counting all this fun stuff. And we just hired a marketing manager who's incredibly creative, has been helping us from the very beginning before we even launched. His name is Eugene Furman. He was so excited about this idea, and when he still had his other job, he helped us out in the evenings and on weekends. He's super passionate about this, growing this business, and has a very creative mind. So it's nice to have people who focus on different things, and I'm always in between trying to. Sometimes I have to be in 10 places at the same time, which is always interesting. But I feel like we have a good team, and I'm the one who's always meeting with customers, communicating with customers, meeting with manufacturing companies, trying to learn more about different needs, going to conferences, so recording podcasts.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your team and how big it is, what those roles look like at this point?
So we have a very small team, and everyone covers different roles. So we have me, we have Dimitri, who's our operations manager, Eugene, who's leading marketing. We have an amazing woman, Haley Albright, who's our social media manager, and Courtney, who's our writer. She writes blogs about women in manufacturing, construction. So we have a small team, but we think that we have all bases covered.
Who would be your next big hire? Like what position?
I think that would be sales, because right now we all try to do sales in many ways, and we have a few perfectionists on the team, which sometimes can be a problem. Me being a perfectionist on the product side, trying to develop more and trying to get to the perfect product. And I know that at some point things will never be perfect, and sometimes you have to test it out before you can make improvements. And we have Eugene is an amazing creative mind. He's more a perfectionist on the customer experience and how the website looks and how the whole experience is. But we're both aware of it and know how that we have to release things earlier and test them out and go that way. I think the next hire would be someone will help us out more with sales to keep that going.
What does your go-to-market strategy look like?
Yeah, right now we're building a strong direct-to-consumer business and have orders to 40 different states, even Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. We're building a brand, including our customers in the process, because they are the ones who have been incredibly helpful from the very beginning and help us understand what they value about this brand and give us honest feedback, what we need to improve. And at the same time, we're trying to build a B2B business, because so many manufacturing companies provide safety shoes. And instead of going through a middleman, a retail store, we want to build strong relationships with companies that want to support their women and want to provide a better product, better personal protective equipment for their engineers and their employees. So, but it takes a much longer time to go to build relationships with big manufacturing companies. We already had great conversations with Rockwell Automation. They invited me to their global headquarters in Milwaukee. We're invited by GE. I had this last conference at the Society of Women Engineers conference here in Anaheim. I had amazing conversations with General Motors, Oshkosh. We had Linde. There are so many companies that were excited about our product, and we will be. It just takes a longer time from the first contact to go through the whole process to become a vendor for them.
What does it cost to manufacture a safety shoe?
Right now, it is more expensive than a regular boot because there's a lot of pieces that go into for the safety features. So right now it costs about $50 to make a safety shoe. And then you add on, that does not include all the testing that goes into it, the shipping, the packaging. So it's right now much more expensive than it would have cost even in Asia, but we want to make sure that we have a good quality control and we have a partner we trust.
I saw that you guys had a seed round led by Ezra at the starting line. He's been on the show. At what point did you guys start exploring investment, or at what point did he say, this is something that I want to get behind?
So we went through a G-Beta accelerator program even before we launched. And the last week of this accelerator program is a pitch week where you go to a different city and you pitch to different people all day long. And the goal was to just build relationships. G-Beta is for early stage company. And at that point, we just launched and had a lot of pre-orders, which was nice. But instead of just building relationships, we had two investors who were very excited. So Ezra gave us a call and said, hey, I saw your business, and he sent out an email and said, I want to talk to you guys. So we had a great conversation with Ezra. And then 2 weeks later, we talked to Scott Shane from Comeback Capital, and he was incredibly interested as well. And that kind of helped to speed up the process. And we were, so many people still tell us, you guys are so dumb that you accepted money that soon. You should have waited for a better valuation. And for us, and so many said, congrats, this is amazing. We were 2 months in after launch, and that's receiving a term sheet and having an amazing investor like Ezra behind us. And we have an amazing team of investors in general. It's fantastic. And you just have to understand, if you make the decision for yourself, you will always have people say one thing or another. You have to make the right decision for your own business and roll with it. So we're happy about the seed round that allows us to move faster, deliver products quicker. We can't stay a tiny Milwaukee-based company for a long time. We have to get the word out nationally, and that's why we think this was fantastic.
You mentioned earlier that you had all unique customers. How many customers are coming back to buy a second pair in a different color?
Yeah, a lot of them. I would have to quantify it, but customers are either buying a second color after a while, or they're waiting for next model to come out. So they send us already notes asking, hey, when's the next model coming out? So, and many of them might wait for the next year for January because they get a stipend every year from their companies that ranges between $80 and $150 that they can use for safety shoes. So some of them are just being a little patient, waiting for the next allowance to come out.
Everybody in manufacturing gets that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, almost everybody in manufacturing is allowed to spend between, in the ranges, in most cases, it's really $80 to $150. Some don't have a limit at all, but that's what we have seen so far.
Is there any difficulty? I saw on the website that Xena Workwear shoes are $160 right now, or $180 for the next model, I think I saw.
Mm-hmm.
So if I have even the high level, the $150 stipend, is there any difficulty in me augmenting that with my own money to get the Xena Workwear boot?
No, you can purchase the boot for 160 and the company will reimburse you for 150 and you paid 10 out of your own pocket, which is still a good deal.
What are we not asking, or what still keeps you up about running a DTC footwear, apparel company?
One of the biggest challenges that we're going through is we launched a new product that did not exist before, and we're following all rules, but it's still different. And women get asked, "Wait a second, are you allowed to wear a heel on the shop floor?" And the interesting part is that we discovered there's not a heel height limitation in the US, but there is one in Canada, and Canadian standards are much, much stricter than American standards. So we decided to go with the Canadian limitation. And certain companies in the US, they decide to implement some heel height limit. And when they pick the companies that select 1 inch, create a double standard for men and women, which leads to discrimination because most men's shoes are over 1 inch high. They're between 1 and 1.5 inches. But the interesting thing is that nobody would ever question the guys because the shoes don't look as nice as the women's shoes that we provide. And the women get the question like, "Hey, wait a second, like what's happening here?" So we are working right now on a white paper that will be released soon. And I'm part of one of the ESCM committees, and I want to apply certain changes. I want at least a standard that applies to everyone, for men and women. And I would love to close certain gaps that exist right now in the American safety industry. That's just an interesting fact that many people ask.
Well, this has been awesome, Anna. If people want to learn more about you or pick up their own pair of Xena Workwear boots, where should they go?
They can go to xenaworkwear.com, and Xena spelled Xena, or they can find me on LinkedIn under Anastasia Kraft. Please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Send us ideas and suggestions. If you know at least one female engineer in your life, please send her the link. They'll really appreciate it. Women love our products, and we're so happy to receiving feedback from them and seeing pictures of women wearing our shoes in manufacturing, construction, and even their free time. This is so rewarding.
Hey listener, have you ever wanted to get a message in front of the Upside audience but weren't sure how to sponsor this show or weren't able to do a long-term sponsorship? Well, now you can just go to upside.fm/classifieds and let our audience know anything that's going on in your world, whether it's an event, an application, a special coupon or deal, or just letting them know who you are, what your company does. All you have to do is go to upside.fm/classifieds and you can place an ad on this show. That's upside.fm/classifieds. All right, Eric, we just spoke with Anna of Xena Workwear. Where would you like to start?
Oh my God, that was terrible. Oh, sorry. That threw me off.
It worked.
All right, that was pretty good. So I think we can start somewhere that's familiar to us, which is the business model, because I think this is somewhere we can kind of breeze through rather quickly with a couple of nuances. This is a DTC business, which stands for direct to consumer, with some potential for some B2B sales. But at its heart, they make a product, they sell that product for a large margin. That margin covers their growth and operating expenses going forward. Fairly standard business model.
Pretty cut and dry.
So one of the nuances I want to hit is the thing that stuck out to me most from the interview in terms of the business model, in terms of the opportunity, which is this subsidy that I've never heard of, that every manufacturing worker gets an $80 to $150 per year subsidy that usually hits in January for safety footwear. Have you ever heard of that?
Never heard of that. Also was like, wow, love that.
Especially if you're selling shoes that are essentially free. If you're on the top tier of that program, if you're a woman, you just get a new pair of shoes every January, which gives them almost like a recurring revenue model where the consumer is paying $10 to $30 on the top end, or less than $200 for sure.
$10 to $80.
Which means that the consumer has to make the decision to buy the shoes, but it's being funded by the business. So it's like a hybrid direct to consumer choice, but B2B payment. I don't know. It's weird, but it's very cool.
Very cool. And it seems like if you can get into the bloodstream or the vein of these manufacturing companies who are offering the stipend and say, as Anna put it, if you want to support and respect your female workforce, then maybe making available these shoes that are in a category of their own, as far as I know, thus far, is a good way to do it. It seems like everybody wins. Now, granted, I'm sure more competition will enter the space if this does go as well as it sounds like it could. But right now, with this first mover advantage and this subsidy, getting in with these companies themselves and saying, have you seen Xena as a safety shoe for women? Seems like a no-brainer.
I think we can move a little over to the opportunity, and this kind of fits into the business model, into the trend. But if they can really get a foothold here, it sounds
Ooh, was that on purpose?
Yeah, it was. I thought you were I didn't know if you're gonna catch it. If they can get a foothold here, I think that that there's probably a lot of unmet demand in this space. If we think about this industry, manufacturing, really since the Industrial Revolution has been a men's game. And in the last few decades, we see a bit of a pickup in women in engineering and women in STEM. There are currently something like 200,000 women in the United States that are in manufacturing as compared to 1.5 million men. So you have to believe that if people are building for the manufacturing engineering space, they're optimizing everything for what is 85% of the market as opposed to this niche part of the market. So they can really create a brand here for a very specific consumer that doesn't just take what is being offered to men and, what did she say? Shrink and pink it? Was that the phrase?
Shrink it and pink it. I've never heard shrink it and pink it, but makes a lot of sense, unfortunately.
Right. So I love that part of the business model. I think that creating that brand awareness around we're for women, by women, designed for women in the manufacturing and engineering space, and also there's not a lot of competition for it.
And they've already gotten some traction. 40 different states in the United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. So provided that they don't slip, it seems like they have a real, not even just national opportunity here, but global opportunity.
And from what I can find online, all of their reviews look great. So, Jay, you're not a fashion expert. We know that. I won't consider myself an expert in women's fashion, or really men's fashion, to be honest, but more so than you, I'd say I get the fashionable one of the two. Is that fair?
I abstain.
Either way, neither of us are qualified to talk about the merits of the fashion of the shoe. However, I found something like 50 different reviews online through different sites that have very positive, glowing things to say with an average of 5 of 5 stars. So people seem to like it. Those could be manipulated, sure. But people seem to like it from what I'm seeing, and it seems to be solving a problem.
You want to do some math on the fly here, Eric? We got a little bit of cost data. We've got pricing data. You have a number of women in STEM. You're the math guy, so the factory floor is yours.
So if we do the 200,000 women in STEM at $160, let's just call it $200 a shoe. Is that fair? It'll be a little high, but we'll do it.
That's definitely high.
Do you want to do 160? Do we need to do exact math here?
I think we should. We could do a 170 because their second shoe is 180. The first shoe is 160. I think we should do exact math here.
Okay. So if we're going to do exact math, then it's 192,000 female engineers. And now you're making me get out my calculator.
192,000 times $170 is $32.64 million. Now, she mentioned that the costs are about $50, but that's not all intensive. Let's do an estimate of $80, which is a 50% margin, which is about, well, you divide by 2. That's pretty simple math, Jay. About $16.3 million in profit if they were on every woman's foot.
That assumes that everyone only buys one pair of shoes as well, which is likely not going to be the case. I'm sure that number is somewhere north of 1 on average. That being said, that's only the US market, so we can scale that up. Is it $1 billion revenues just on shoes? No, it's not. Is it at 100% of every female engineering, manufacturing employee, is it 100 million a year? Maybe. But that's not the business model here. The business model is you start with shoes and then you expand and you become a brand. So they've already talked about blazers. They're talking about other areas, and they said that they have a request list from women in the space. Probably just like how Anna was complaining about shoes, these women have been complaining about some other aspect of their job where they haven't been heard and they just haven't gone out and created a product. But now they have a list of products that people want in the space, which goes back to my original point of this being 200,000 of the 1.7 million manufacturing engineers in the United States. It's an area that probably just hasn't been heard as much.
Love that they're already going into blazers. I love how quickly they're expanding into different SKUs here. She said it took a year to get the first prototype and everything ready to go, and she said that was long. I don't know if that was long for the industry or it just felt long to her. It seems like they're moving pretty quickly to me to have this many different unique SKUs and moving into blazers already, which opens up the market beyond women in STEM, in my opinion. So that was really promising. I also loved hearing that from just giving their G Beta pitch, not even the Generate Accelerator, their G Beta pitch, she had 2 inbound calls from Ezra and Scott Shane, 2 men and investors that we respect very much in this space, looking to back her early. To me, that is a non-trivial signal of you're onto something.
So let's do our reversed deal memo here and jump back over to Anna as a founder. Jay, you said it in the interview. It is always interesting to hear how people create products and deal with the ambiguity that's out there around creating a product. I thought her approach overall was she almost made it seem simple. Like, oh, I just went on Upwork, hired a designer. We did it a bunch of times. And then I flew down to Mexico, learned Spanish, and dealt with everyone and asked the right questions. And then we had a product. I know it wasn't that simple, but the ability to just do that while you have a full-time job, I respect a lot.
She has this history she shared with us of basically going against the grain, to say, where I grew up, this was not the way things were done. This is not the supportive nature of what was available for people to think about starting businesses. She is a woman in STEM, which we just went through the math, is the minority in that population. And despite all of that, she decided to jump in and start a company, start a physical goods product that she had to learn how to get manufactured, how to design. And yeah, she really made it seem easy. And not because she said it was easy, just the way she approached it was easy, which I think is a positive sign for Anna as a founder and somebody who will have countless challenges as she grows her company, as founders do. It doesn't sound like she gets fazed by those challenges. It sounds like, she creates her own personal charter, to use the manufacturing language, decides her goals, decides who needs to be involved, what success looks like, and goes and makes it happen.
Any shadows pop out to you?
The only shadow that pops out to me is, given that she's going against the grain, a woman in STEM, a woman in manufacturing, now making a women's wear product line for other women in STEM, I'm sure there's just a lot of societal and industry hurdles that she has to get through that may just be ignorance and discrimination, potentially. So I'm sure that there are more hurdles than we even realize, but she definitely seems like somebody who will fight through these things. So no shadows in Anna herself as a founder, just acknowledging that the road she's choosing to walk down is a difficult one.
My only shadow comes from the fact that this is a very old legacy industry, and if there is the potential for B2B sales, that there could be some large legacy competitors who can leverage distribution over innovation and figure out a way to come in at a decision point that isn't the end consumer, but is the business. So, for example, if you had a large workplace equipment manufacturer, workplace uniform manufacturer who came in with a new women's line that they innovated, and instead of charging $160 to individual consumers, they charged $25 per pair of shoes to Caterpillar because they have that relationship that they've had for the last 150 years. That's somewhere I would be hesitant to rule out as a risk, but the way that you combat that is with excessively fast growth word of mouth and branding. Because if these shoes become desired by women in STEM and talked about by women in STEM, it's going to be harder to say, oh, no, we have to go with this knockoff version.
The other shadow I may have, but not really, it's just kind of a first that we've heard on the show. She alluded to the fact that she's gotten some criticism that she took investment too soon at a valuation that was too low. We've never heard a founder say that. It might not be that we've never had that situation on the show. We just never had it come up in an interview. And she didn't seem to have any regrets for that. But if I'm a later stage investor and she gets to a point where she needs higher levels of investment, if that cap table is a problem for me, then maybe that's a shadow, but we don't have enough insider data to say. All right, Eric. So what are you looking for from Anna 6 to 18 months from now?
I don't think it's a metric they track, and I don't have a good number. I try to do some research to find it, but there has to be a number of manufacturing centers in the United States. I don't know what that actually breaks down into. Is it distribution centers, manufacturing centers, factory floors? Whatever it is, maybe OSHA has the number of actual facilities where people work. I would want to know their penetration rates into facilities. So that means one individual per facility, because once you kind of get into a facility, I think you get natural organic search by wearing those shoes around and someone compliments them and then they get a pair and then someone else gets a pair. So I don't think that's a stat they keep, but I think a proxy for it would be just penetration rates in general on that 192,000 women engineers number.
I guess that may surprise you here, Eric.
Does it rhyme with brevenue?
It rhymes with brevenue. Looking for revenue growth because they're at that point, but also looking to see how that sales growth affects their unit economics and may build a more defensible moat for them, as I would expect other competitors enter the market. So the more favorable unit economics they can get, the more they can compete against some of those big incumbent players you're talking about. How quickly can they get to that level of scale? And I like your point about getting into unique factories so they can start to get a literal foothold, to use your good pun that I didn't acknowledge, into these factories.
One last thing that I should have mentioned earlier on, that subsidy, which is where we started this deal memo, is a subsidy for workers that are already making significantly higher salaries than the average consumer. So there's probably a lot of room for the price point to increase upwards over time as well. Anna said herself she wanted to get in engineering because it's where you make the money. And I remember when we were graduating from Ohio State, all my friends who went into engineering were signing six-figure deals right out of college. So the consumer is probably less price conscious, and the fact that they have a subsidy makes them hypothetically even less price sensitive. So when we're looking at those unit economics that you brought up, I think they can get much, much, much better based on the kind of consumer that they're targeting and based on this subsidy and based on the fact that they're going to get economies of scale as they grow.
All right, dear listener, we'd love to hear what's on your mind and what's on your feet. You can tweet at us at UpsideFM or email us hello@upside.fm. Let us know what you thought of this interview with Anna. If you're listening to this podcast on iTunes, we'd love for you to leave us a 5-star rating and review in iTunes. It helps us bring high-quality guests to the show. Or if you know a woman in STEM, send her this episode. Forward it on, text it to her, let her know that there are options for her out here in the workplace. And we'll talk to you next week. That's all for this week. Thanks for listening. We'd love to hear your thoughts on today's guest, so shoot us an email at hello@upside.fm or find us on Twitter @UpsideFM. We'll be back here next week at the same time talking to another founder in our quest to find upside outside of Silicon Valley. If you or someone you know would make a good guest for our show, please email us or find us on Twitter and let us know. And if you love our show, please leave us a review on iTunes. That goes a long way in helping us spread the word and continue to help bring high-quality guests to the show. Eric and I decided there were a couple things we wanted to share with you at the end of the podcast, and so here we go. Eric Hornung and Jay Klaus are the founding parties of the Upside podcast. At the time of this recording, we do not own equity or other financial interest in the companies which appear on this show. All opinions expressed by podcast participants are solely their own opinion and do not reflect the opinions of Duff & Phelps LLC and its affiliates, Unreal Collective LLC and its affiliates, or any entity which employ us. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for investment decisions. We have not considered your specific financial situation nor provided any investment advice on this show. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.
Never mind, bro, that can't be matched. I'm lighting it on fire, used to run victory laps, and still I'm not even tired. It's all about the timing, yeah, that's what they say. Well, I'ma keep on rhyming, find a way.